Dickie Lovelady, he's back. The Mets' first move after signing Joe Jacques, a left-handed reliever, to a minor league deal, is signing another left-hand reliever who was here, who we know well, mostly because of his name, Richard Lovelady, but call me Dickie. Dickie Lovelady, one of the great names in sports, gets a one-year major league deal from the New York Mets on Thursday. Listen, I wouldn't make a big deal out of this, but I'm a little shocked that he's getting an MLB deal. You know, it's not like Dickie Lovelady lit up the world in the 2025 season, pitching 10 innings for the Mets with a 6.3 ERA, giving up 7 earned runs over those 10 innings. He was nothing to write home about. He was great in the minor leagues, and that's why the Mets signed him, you know, in the Twins farm system. But he didn't really do anything here. So this is a bit of a surprise. Remember, the Mets lost A.J. Minter and Danny Young to season-ending injuries, so they were scrambling for arms. They got him. He didn't do much, but now he's back. And they have him. They have Joe Jacques in the minor leagues. A.J. Minter is expected to hopefully be back for opening day, or at least play a part next year, some point early in the season. Danny Young's expected to be back at some point next season. So they're going to be having multiple lefties and probably go after another one in the major league. So a little bit curious as to why they did this. I didn't really understand the need. You know, I don't think this is something to get up in arms about. You know, we're here to talk about what the Mets are doing, and this was a signing they made, so we are talking about it. I don't think it's worth spending a bunch of time on, but a little intrigued that they already felt the need to give him a major league deal. I don't think he was going to be exactly that sought after in free agency. I would have said, hey, like, we'll bring you back on a minor league deal. If not, see ya. But the legend of Dickie Lovelady continues in New York, and the World Series begins on Friday night. That is tonight, October 24th. And you're watching Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown. At Jake Brown Live is where you follow me on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube at Jake Brown Live. Scan this code, become a Mets Daily Insider for just $5 a month, cheaper than a cup of coffee. Literally, coffee now, like $6 for a large iced coffee. It's crazy. So make sure you get that, and exclusive member-only shows coming after the World Series. And, you know, stuff that we'll talk about starting next week. Free agency's coming. Now, free agency begins the day after the World Series, but it officially begins 5 days after the World Series. So that is when guys can sign, is 5 days after the World Series. That's the players can't sign with new teams until 5 p.m. Eastern time on the 5th day after the World Series concludes. The first day is a period where their former team has the exclusive rights to, or the first 5 days of free agency are exclusive to the player's former team to negotiate a new contract or extension. So, you know, the World Series schedule goes like this. Tonight, it's game 1. Tomorrow, it's game 2. Monday, it's game 3, and that'll be in LA, first 2 in Toronto. Tuesday, game 4. Wednesday, game 5, all 3 of those in LA. Friday, Halloween, if necessary, game 6. And Saturday, November 1st, if necessary, game 7. So the soonest the series could end, folks, is Tuesday if the Dodgers sweep. And the way they're playing, that wouldn't shock me. The latest it would go is November 1st. So the latest free agency would officially begin is Thursday, November 6th. So it's not far away. So we're going to talk about Edwin Diaz. We're going to talk about free agent targets. We're going to do that every day. I don't want to beat that to a, you know, whatever, a sore drum, beat it to a drum, beat it to whatever, however the saying goes. I don't want to go nonstop on that. So we'll talk about Edwin Diaz. I know that was a talking point on SNY yesterday. And, you know, the Mets it's not a rubber stamp that they would go to 4 years. We'll get into all that in the coming week or two. But it is a Friday. It is the World Series. And, you know, it's something I talked about yesterday, and I've talked about. Look at the Blue Jays and go down their roster and go down their stat line in the 2025 season. And this is what I try and tell people, that the Mets, you know, if they lose Alonso, it's not all about having all these power hitters and all these RBI guys. It's about having an evenly distributed lineup. And the Toronto Blue Jays, when you look at their roster, they had one 30-plus homer hitter, and that was George Springer. 32 homers, 84 RBIs. He hit 309, a 399 OBP. Just an incredible season for Springer. After that, Vladimir Guerrero, 23 homers. Addison Barger, 21. Dalton Varsho, 20. Bo Bichette, 18. And Bo Bichette is on the World Series roster. So that's a huge addition to the Blue Jays lineup. He hit 311 this season, 18 and 94. Alejandro Kirk, 15 homers. Nathan Lucas, 12. Davis Schneider, 11. Ernie Clement, 9. I mean, They have one hitter with 30 plus, three hitters with 20 plus. The Mets had 1, 2, 3 30 plus guys, 4 25 plus guys, one of them hitting 40 plus, and Juan Soto with 43, and they missed the playoffs. So the Mets lineup was very top heavy, and then it was a huge drop off. Then it was Beatty 18 and 50, Vientos 17 and 61, McNeil 12 for 54, Alvarez 11 for 32. So it was those 3-4 guys, and then it was a massive drop off. When you look at the Blue Jays, 84, 84, 74, 94, 55, 76, 65. And then you look at the Dodgers, 102, 86, 89, 90, 82, 67, 61 in terms of RBIs. So it's about having a better overall lineup. It's not about, oh, we need a 40-homer hitter at first. We need a 30-homer hitter guy here. They need a evenly distributed 1 through 9, and that's where the Mets went wrong. It was very much, about the Silver Sluggers that Eric Chavez on his Instagram story just pat himself on the back about, that the Mets had 3 Silver Sluggers. It's not about just the guys who perform that we know are going to perform in Lindor, Soto, Alonso. It's about everyone else. And that's where the Mets were a disaster this season. Vientos incredibly inconsistent. Alvarez inconsistent and injured. Jeff McNeil was just okay. Brandon Nimmo was, okay. Didn't do enough. Center field was a black hole. They got nothing offensively out of center field. So the Mets need a better roster. It's not just about a better first baseman or getting all the homers and RBIs from first base. So that's where people got to kind of get educated about a team. And what the Blue Jays are a collective unit and a team. Outside of Vladdy and Springer, that's not a roster. You're like, oh my God, that guy. Nathan Lucas, Addison Barger. It's not always about the big sexy name. It's about a lineup with cohesion, with chemistry, and moving from station to station. And that's what the Blue Jays did really well. And to extent the Dodgers. Obviously we know Ohtani 55-102, and we know Freddie Freeman is great. But it was guys like Andy Paez. It was Will Smith. It was a guy like Tommy Edman coming up in certain moments. It was a guy like Miguel Rojas. So it's about sometimes those other guys that contribute to you winning. And the Mets didn't get that from the other guys. But the World Series, I hope it's good, man. I'm going to take the Dodgers in 6. I think the Blue Jays adding Bo Bichette is huge for that lineup. It really balances out that Blue Jays lineup. But this Dodgers team, man, is too good. And you're going to face Blake Snell at least 2 and maybe 3 times. I think it's too tall of a task with their pitching, with Yamamoto pitching as well as he has in the playoffs, with Ohtani pitching. It's just too good. Dodgers are a dynasty, and they win this year, it is a dynasty. That's 3 World Series in 6 years. That's a World Series every other year. That is officially a dynasty. And I think they're just getting started, which is scary. So I think it's going to be fun. Scherzer in the World Series, intriguing. I'm rooting for the Blue Jays, Mets fans for Blue Jays, but I think the Dodgers, just too good. Let us know your thoughts, your comments below in the comments. And, let us know in the comments below if your company would like to be a partner or a sponsor of Mets Daily. Hit me up. Hit us in the comments. Hit up Fan Ars. Let us know. We will be taking that as well as we move along off season. We're doing well with the numbers. So if your company or your business is interested, make sure you hit me up because we are intrigued. And we are intrigued by your comments. You guys are doing a fantastic job in the comments. So we're going to get back to the comments. And again, I think news and rumors are going to become essential here in the coming weeks. So we're probably not going to do comments every day after the World Series ends, but I'm going to try and incorporate them as much as we can on Mets Daily. So I appreciate that. Again, smash that thumbs up and hit that subscribe. All right. Your comments from Thursday's show on YouTube from Radiant Valor and OP. NYFS is what I was on every day as a kid. I miss it a lot. I'm trying to think what NYF, New York fantasy site. What is, I forget what NYFS is, to be honest, Radiant. From Roman J, Pirates won't trade Skeens. He probably gets the best ticket sales when he pitches at home. He'll be a deadline trade in the final year before free agency. We'll see. I think now's the time they could get a haul for him while he's got years of control. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's not a bad point. From Arcade Perfect Reviews, as long as the defense and pitching are fixed, we have enough hitting to win. Yeah, but they need more hitting. I don't think they have enough hitting to win, Arcade. I think they have to add more. Jose Lopez, keeping Edwin Diaz as a Met is a must. That's something I've said every day on here. I think Edwin Diaz is more important to this team than Pete Alonso. There's no lockdown closers out there. And if you get rid of him and move on, you're going to see a black hole at closer. You could try Minter, you could try other guys, but it's not going to be as locked down as Edwin Diaz was. Frank Major says, I would love to get Kevin Long back. Yeah, Kevin Long's intriguing. Obviously with the Phillies, their lineup, sometimes Jekyll and Hyde falls asleep in October. I'm not against Kevin Long. Tuck Loomis says, no hitting coach needed. Just try to emulate Soto's approach to hitting. As nice as that sounds, it's not going to happen. There will be a hitting coach. From Marielle, 1973, are you thrilled the Mets signed Richard Lovelady? Obviously, the name, it's great and all. I just don't understand why they rushed to give this guy a major league deal. I think you want to upgrade the roster, not really bring back some straggler pieces, and I looked at Lovelady as kind of a straggler piece. As much as I liked when they signed him, not just because his name, because at the time I said on the show, I predicted that they would because he was down in the minors, and then they signed him. So I liked it at the time. He just, it's only 10 innings, so I don't want to rip the guy. He just didn't work out in those 10 innings. So maybe a bigger sample size off season with the Mets. Maybe they still have the pitching lab with Hefner gone. Maybe he works out. Edward Burkhardt says, and not sign Alonso if he comes too much of a hassle in free agency. He's going to be a hassle. His agent, Scott Boras. Craig Little, Albert is the hitting coach regardless of his title. No, Craig, I know you're hammering this home. He's not. He's the director of hitting. There will be someone who is hired who will be the hitting coach. They both are going to be the dugout. So I don't really think you understand whoever is his assistant. There's no real assistant. There's a hitting coach and director of hitting. So they're both going to be in the dugout. They're both going to be in uniform. His title will be hitting coach. Albert's will be director of hitting. That's the title. So you're wrong on that one. From Elvis Solano, former Houston Astros hitting coach. What world makes sense? Give Manny a shot. Here's what doesn't make sense. Manny Ramirez. I think everyone likes the sexy name of Manny Ramirez and the fact that he's Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez hasn't coached. How does a guy with experience on World Series championship winning teams not make sense, but Manny Ramirez does? Like, that to me is comical. I think the Mets would be laughed at. I think that's an old Mets regime move to sign Manny Ramirez as hitting coach. I think Manny's fun, but are we serious about him being a hitting coach? I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. Theo Isaac, let's go Mets. Frank Major, Skeens is so-so, but don't trade the minors. They are the future. Yeah, we'll see what it would look like. Roman J, if the Mets are really serious about winning, why not sign Real Muto for 1-2 years? He will help the starting staff, especially the young guns. Alvarez can back up and learn from Real Muto. Because he's not going to come to the Mets. I've said this over and over in here. These longtime Philly players don't like the Mets. Like, a lot of them won't come to the Mets. And Real Muto, the Mets aren't going to pay big money for Real Muto because they have Alvarez for cheap. The Mets have barely committed to depth catchers. Do you think they're going to commit to a starting catcher and then just have Alvarez be the backup? It's not going to work out like that. Jose Lopez says Reed Garrett was overused. He was overused, but it doesn't really excuse him for being bad. He was used a lot, but you're a reliever. You got to be ready to roll. So I don't disagree he was overused, but he also wasn't that good. Radiant Valorant also says Paul Skeens trade, yes, if I keep Benj and Sproat. Definitely don't trade McClain, buy everyone else. Also, McClain is not a prospect. He's part of the majors. Yeah, I don't look at McClain as a prospect either. Like I said yesterday, McClain to me is untouchable. I wouldn't put Benj in the untouchable, but he's getting close to that. And I think Sproat is Sproat is tradable. You got it. Sproat or Tong is probably getting traded if you're making a trade. One or both are getting traded, but I agree. McClain is untouchable. Enjoy the World Series, everyone. Game 1 and 2 this weekend. We'll talk about those games. We'll talk about the Mets hot stove more on Monday. Thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, follow your boy at Jake Brown Live. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching Mets Daily.